Hello everyone, my name is Lulu Issa and I am currently doing my presentation on Triangle, the Fire That Changed America. The author is David Von Drell, a reporter for the Washington Post. He used to live in New York and happened to walk past a building and noticed a historical marker. He was curious. It noted that the building had been burned in the past. So first, it started as curiosity, then it turned into research, and then that research finally turned into a book. The building he walked across was a building that housed many businesses in the past, and the Triangle Waist Company was one of those businesses. In the 1900s, it happened to be the biggest maker of women's blouses in New York, and it occupied 3 floors, which happened to undergo the deadliest workplace fire on March 25, 1911. So here are some resources that the author used to ensure the accuracy of this piece of historical information. The first 2 are the most noteworthy. He used transcribed testimony from the trial of people of the state of New York versus Isaac Harris and Max Blank, the owners of the company. And the second most useful resource he used is another book that was written in 1962 by Leon Stein called The Triangle Fire. And then, of course, there are other resources that he used. So the first half of the book focused on setting the scene with giving historical information regarding the women's rights movement and the immigration movement in the labor force. Most of the employees at the Triangle Waist Company were women. Many were immigrants, either Jews exiled from Russia or Italians who came to New York in search of a better future. However, these women worked more than 13 hours a day for 13 cents an hour, with harsh working conditions, and their pay was never consistent. Their pay would be docked without reason or explanation, and this was the case in many other companies in the city as well. This prompted strikes and petitions for shorter hours, better pay, safer conditions, and unions. The second half of the book gave descriptive accounts of the events of the fire. It was very detailed, analytical, and descriptive. It illustrates the last moments of some people who died in the fire and some survivors, taken from their testimonies. It also describes a trial that took place after the fire. People were very hungry for accountability and justice. Now, events leading to the fire, or what happened right before the fire. Death was an almost routine workplace hazard in those days. By one estimate, 100 or more Americans died on the job every day in the booming industry in 1911. Just 4 months before the Triangle Fire, an almost identical fire in a New York garment factory trapped and killed 25 women. And also, workplace safety was scarcely regulated. So what happened exactly on March 25th, 1911 to cause this fire? So there apparently was a bin of fabric scraps under a cutting table, and someone simply either snuck in a cigarette and either dropped a match or cigarette ash into one of the bins, and it went up like a firebomb. Within minutes, the entire 9,000 square feet of the 8th floor was in flames. It started on the 8th floor with 180 employees on that particular floor. They started yelling, "Fire! Fire!" and many workers headed to the stairwell down to the bottom floor, many being squashed and trampled over. Some used the fire escape because the stairs were too crowded and people were getting hurt. There were 146 deaths out of 500 employees. So there were many reasons of concern and many hazards. One of the first ones was that one of the doors to go upstairs to the bottom floor was locked because the owners did not want any of their employees going out through this exit without being able to check their bags. This was their way of making sure that employees did not steal fabric or anything like lace from them. That turned out to be the worst piece of damning evidence for them. There was also one fire escape, and it was poorly designed. It was flimsy and small, and they also had cluttered workspaces. The tallest ladder that firefighters had in New York at the time reached up to only the 6th floor, and they had to sit idly by without being able to help victims on the 9th and 10th floor and watched helplessly as the workers jumped out of the windows to their death. There was also not enough water pressure from the hoses. There were long wooden tables that became obstacles. The baskets or bins of cut-up fabric was also a hazard. The oily floor spread the fire quickly, and the fire nets that the firefighters were using failed to catch the jumpers. Despite the fact that emergency sprinklers were invented at the time, they were not installed in this building. There was also flammable barrels of oil around, and the boxes also crowded the exits. There was also a lack of required staircases. Administration did not do a very good job with HR record keeping. How many people came into work that day was never known, and how many people specifically worked on the 9th floor that day was also never known. The phone system to contact others about the fire was too complicated, and the alarm was not set off in enough time. In order to call the 9th floor, the person at the front desk on the 8th floor had to call the 10th floor desk to warn them. However, the front desk staff person on the 10th floor left as soon as she was told that there was a fire and never warned the 9th floor. This cost 3 minutes of warning. 3 minutes would have made a big difference. Perhaps then not as many lives would have been lost. This company was cited before for not having the correct safety features, and they were recommended to fix these issues. The owner never heeded those recommendations. This company had several fires in the past, some thought to have been set on purpose for insurance payouts. The right fire at the right time was good for business. The workers were never trained on fire safety and did not know how to respond or react. There were never any fire evacuation drills to participate in. So after the fire, there was a trial, and the court put the owners on trial in the count of manslaughter, stemming from 2 of the 146 deaths in their factory. One count alleged they violated the law against locking doors and thus caused the death of 2 of the women caused by negligence. The prosecutors limited the indictments to 2 deaths because the penalty would have been the same no matter how many counts were proven. They were acquitted because it could not be proven that the door was in fact locked that day, despite proof that it was locked afterwards. One of the owners never changed his ways. He was arrested again in 1913. The charge? Locking a door during working hours. He was finally found guilty, but then was only fined $20. So what were the lessons learned? It was a crucial moment in a potent chain of events, which ultimately forced fundamental reforms for the political machinery of New York and the whole nation. It played a significant role in laying the epistemological foundation of the modern regulatory state. It increased public awareness of the cause and effect relationships behind contemporary social problems that was crucial to progressive era reform, and this event was somewhat a focusing event. It taught the importance of following safety regulations and actually ensuring that the law is followed. It brought upon stricter enforcement of these regulations. And these are my references. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.